5:30. And so, want to make sure that she gets enough time to address concerns. So Mike, let me know. Okay. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone to the final 6th district meeting, community meeting of the year. And if you all would, please turn off our cell phones. Because you just looking. Thank you so much. It's quite all right. My name is Lavita Sparks Wade, and I am the outgoing 6th District Councilwoman. Pretty soon in attendance here, we will have the incoming council-elect, Dwight Williams. He is on his way. And with us today, we also have Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. And the main reason for our meeting today is to address concerns in regards to the railroad closures in the Glen Park area. There were initially, there have been 5 closures on streets that those of us who live out here, we use quite often. And I am going to turn everything over to the mayor at this point. She's gonna be leaving in a few minutes. She has another engagement that she has to attend. Mayor Freeman Wilson.
Well, thank you, Councilwoman Sparks Wade, and I just want to congratulate you on your tenure. As you all know, I'm also finishing my tenure, and it's been an honor to serve the citizens of this city, including those of you who are in the 6th District. I wanted to provide a little history, and certainly our Public Works Director could have come, or someone else from the department could have come, but I wanted to come because I wanted to provide full context to our discussion relative to the closures and to the history of the closures. I also want to take this opportunity to just thank and acknowledge our host from the Blind Social Center. They do such amazing work, not just for our citizens who are visually impaired, but for our community here in the 6th District. I know they've been great partners to Councilwoman Sparks Wade, but they've also, excuse me, been good partners to me as well. And so Mr. and Mrs. Blair, Reverend Wynn, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
About 3 years ago, we were approached by Norfolk Southern, and this was during shortly after we finished the work at the airport. We had dealt extensively with them then, and they said, we have some issues, safety issues, surrounding at-grade crossings that are of concern to us in the Glen Park area, and we'd like you to take a look. At the initial meeting, we actually sent an email out that went out to not only city staff, we sent it out because we weren't sure how it cut to our 5th District councilperson, our 6th District councilperson, and I know that everybody can't always make meetings, but that was the sort of initial conversation with them, where we indicated that we would take a look at the crossings. One of the ones that was kind of head and shoulders above the rest, and I think at that meeting, at that initial meeting, we said, yeah, that one really should be closed, was the zigzag crossing right off of the post office, that area, because of the sort of blind side, I believe it's Delaware, if you will, and we just knew that that was something that was not only an accident that had happened, because there had been a couple of accidents there over the course of time, and this was over the course of many, many years, but it just did not seem safe and capable of creating a safe passage. But we knew that they presented 9. We knew that 9 was not appropriate, And so we went on to look at, what we thought were appropriate closings based on safety issues, engineering issues. And I wanna give you a chance if you want to welcome, Council.
Yes, we'd like to welcome Councilman-elect Dwight Williams,
How's everyone this evening?
and he will be assuming office on January 1st.
So, we looked at those things, and it was largely, I will tell you, done by both public safety and technical staff. And ultimately, what we came up with were 5 of the 9 closures and the closures that you now see. In exchange for that, we received a sum of $350,000 to do blight elimination, to do demolition, to do paving in the areas impacted by the closure. Some of you have seen that work start. It won't be finished, quite frankly, until next spring, because there are a lot of houses, vacant and abandoned houses along that corridor. And we wanted to take as much input as possible from the community. There was a significant omission with this, and I'll take responsibility for that. The buck stops here. And that is that we did not, as is typically our practice, have any community meetings around the closures. Now, I'm not saying that they would have been different. I know that one would have, so I will say that. But at least you all would have had a heads up. At least there would have been some community engagement, and we could have heard from the public. I would also indicate that while we understand that you've raised some public safety concerns, public safety was integrally involved. So after that first meeting, we actually came out and walked each closing. So we were on the Delaware Street closing, we were on Washington, we were on Adams, we were not just each closing, but each area. And one of the things that we did miss was the impact on your business. And we've had that conversation, and I'll say it because that, you know, that's just what happened. We have now received the dollars. We have started the blight elimination along this corridor, and that is where we are in the process. I will tell you that we have asked to change Washington to, or we have asked to change from the closure on Adams to the closure on Washington, because we do not believe, and our engineer has, and the police and fire agree with this, that you require Broadway, Washington, and Adams. And one of the other things that that will change in short order, if it hasn't changed already, is that because of those closures, there's some signage that has to change to show that streets are two-way in certain areas. And so, if I have any water, I don't know, I've been fighting the cold, and so that is the other thing that will happen, and that will happen before the end of the year. In fact, when I talked to the traffic department, they were making those signs now. So that's the sum and substance of the closures. We have appealed a decision, because at the regional level, they have said, no, we won't make any changes, but we've appealed that to the CEO. A guy named James Squires, and waiting to hear from him. So I want to stop talking there and be able to respond to any questions that you all have.
So then you are trying to get Adams Street reopened?
Yes.
Right, and they know the switchgear's still in?
Yes.
Okay. Did they propose to leave Washington and Adams open? in case
No.
Broadway ever gets closed?
No, we didn't ask for that.
All right.
We don't believe that's appropriate.
Are you are you giving them another street besides Adams Street?
Yeah, it would be Washington.
Washington,
Would be
that's what
closed,
I
yes,
thought.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
One thing bad about closing Washington, if Broadway's ever closed,
How many
then
times has Broadway been closed?
I've seen it close.
I understand.
Doing it, redoing the tracks or an
You know what?
accident or, I know what you're saying, you know, Broadway is it's a state highway, right? Okay, well, it's north-south travel on Washington and Adams.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you going after getting Adams Street back open. It's a dilemma, you know, it's not, we can't say, yes, make it a two-way street, we can pull them down, unload them, take them back out. Because a lot of these truck drivers say, I'm not backing up down one.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I mean?
nor do we want them to.
And they, you know, we'll flag traffic and everything else, and then a lot of times my secretary is there by herself, where we'll get Dayton Freight or a local freight company through, and they've got a 10x10 curve that weighs 10 pounds.
Well,
But they got a 45-foot truck.
I'm pretty sure that GSD and, the General Services Department met out at your site today to look at, what needs to be engineered as it relates to drainage, so that we can do the paving. The season caught up with us, and
Right.
so we won't be able, while we will clear that and make it available to truckers, so that it won't be the need for backing in and backing out.
Well, they will make it around that telephone pole.
Yes, they should. Yes, sir.
Mayor, glad you could come.
Thank you.
My issue is, I've been at the address just east of Georgia for right at 50 years. I have seen every accident on those tracks, I think, since I've been there. And it hasn't been as many as they trying to say that that's been. And I've watched funerals come by, I've watched ambulances come down there, I've watched police cars, you name it. And emergency vehicles, we're talking about what could be a matter of life and death.
Yes, sir.
And not only that, but I've seen accidents on 94 where the traffic was rerouted to Ridge Road. All right, then that causes congestion. If I had to go to Cherville or Griffin, that was a way out for us. And like I said, I've been at that address for, I'm gonna say 50 years. And I have seen things come and go, but I've never seen anything that it's a through street. I can see some of the other closures that maybe not been used as much, but like I said, I've witnessed it. And when somebody is injured or somebody needs police assistance, every minute counts. Why should they have to go around? And then I noticed the street just south of that where you have the detours. And say for instance, if I was going to one of the stores right there on 41st and Broadway, why should I have to go down to 39th and then back up to 41st, or go up to 42nd and go through that rough street, down by the little park, and come out on the other end? To me, it just don't make common sense to me. I'm talking about to me now, I'm not criticizing anybody particularly.
I understand.
I'm just saying what an inconvenience, but my main concern is, God forbid we have somebody injured, and the emergency vehicles have to be rerouted to get there. Could be a fire department, could be my house on fire.
I've already followed one. I
So
followed them
to-
from Monroe down to Washington, back down to 39th, back over to Madison.
Paul, can I answer the question?
I'm sorry?
You know, so I understand the inconvenience, and we regret that anytime there's a change, it is likely that some folks will be inconvenienced. I want to speak to your public safety concern. And one of the main reasons why we walked the area with police and fire was because we wanted to make sure. Now, with any change, you have to get folks acclimated to that change. Been off on sick leave, this isn't your normal route. And so one of the things that we've asked the commanders and chiefs to do, both in police and fire, is to make sure that their staff is fully aware of that, so that the concerns that you raised regarding the danger or life and death of the change will not materialize. Yes, ma'am.
Will any alleyways be, I don't know if they can be paved, but be leveled? I know over near, behind 47th and Broadway, that alleyway was leveled out with dirt, which made for a better way through, rather than, just some deep potholes that were so deep that cars couldn't go through, and residents were pouring grass, anything to fill it, but ultimately someone did come and put dirt to level it out, which makes for a smoother transition. Is that a possibility?
Yes, they routinely do that. Can you
Okay.
give me the location?
Yes, well behind my facility, 4760 Broadway, in that alleyway to 48, where there's the dialysis center.
Okay,
You
so,
enter in that way, there's a lot of deep potholes that someone has,
so it's the alley west of Broadway?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that was filled up nicely, however, there's a lot of dumping, rubber tires accumulated.
So the alley west has been filled, or it needs to be
It
filled?
has been filled.
Okay.
But someone has then since come and dumped,
Okay.
excuse me, tires and stuff.
Is there an alley that yet needs to be leveled?
I haven't. driven.
Okay, you're not, okay.
That's
But
my
it's mainly
way.
the dumping?
Yes.
Okay.
And that becomes a barricade, because then you have, like, it's a better alleyway, but now there are rubber tires, so forth.
Got it.
And guys, if we have any other issues besides the railroad, we're gonna take those at the end. But I want to, this main discussion is about the railroad crossings. So does anybody have any other questions or comments? Yes,
I
sir.
do about my parking on 41st Avenue. I've been complaining about it over a 10-year period.
Railroad,
No,
okay, that's, no, just railroad right now.
Oh,
And
I
then
thought
at
you
the
said
end- no,
railroad.
when we, as soon as we get through
oh
with the
yeah, no
railroad
problem with the
discussion.
railroad.
As soon as we get through with the railroad discussion, then we'll take care of all other issues. Yes, sir.
Since it seems like 41st will be closed permanently, is there a possibility to make 43rd two-way from Broadway to Georgia?
There's parking on both sides of the street now. Um, We can certainly ask the engineering department, engineering traffic, to take a look at that. I mean, a lot of the one-way streets that we see were created when there was a lot more traffic. And so the two-way traffic should not create a huge problem.
On the streets that concerning the blockade of the railroads, at the end of the street, could there be a roundabout where traffic could go the opposite way rather than backing out? Before you get to the railroad, just to have where cars could easily turn around and go the opposite way back to the other street.
So
Because
it-
people live on that block, and sometimes you can only go one direction.
So, that's interesting. I will again ask the engineers to look at that. I lived for a long time on the dead end, the 800 block of Fillmore. And, so, there are some streets that would be conducive to what you're suggesting. But sometimes with the width of those streets, creating, it wouldn't be a roundabout per se, but it would be a turnaround,
Turn
I
around.
think. And so I think getting that turnaround would really work well.
Excuse me, is that the same as a cul-de-sac, kind of?
No, cause I don't even think we have enough room on those streets to create cul-de-sacs. But there might be, particularly where there is not a house or something at that end, an opportunity for a turnaround.
Yeah, I'm a resident of Glen Park, here at Glen Park, for over 40 years myself, right off of Vermont Street. And I've used 41st Avenue, I know, for over 40 years, up and down 41st Avenue. And 41st Avenue and Delaware Street are through streets. I just really can't see anybody eliminating a through street that is right into the city and it's heavily populated. 41st Avenue runs through 3 cities. Started in Holford, Gary, and Griffin. Delaware Street runs through 2 cities. Starts in Melville, all the way to 32nd Avenue. Those are through fares. And like Brother said earlier, it eliminates a lot of traffic. You have a traffic jam on 94, back and forth, you could always go down Delaware. Now in the wintertime, we all know, you have a snow problem. I've been there before, I've seen some big snow. The city plows decide the avenues first. You could always count. You get to 41st Avenue, you know you can make it to Broadway. You get to Broadway because the county takes care of Broadway, Highway 53. The rest of the street, you can get out and go to the doctor, the grocery store, and make it to church. The restaurant, I really counted on 41st Avenue. There are other streets, and I have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Some of them, I said if I didn't have it, I'd be in trouble. But to close 41st and Delaware, it just don't seem like nobody would give up that type of access to such a heavily populated place. And like I said, with the avail, and it makes not only convenient for the people in here. Since I noticed a lot of people come out of Hollywood, go straight down 41st Avenue, going to Griffin, going to the east side, because it's convenient rather than go to Ridge Road or go to especially 94. And like I said, it's just a connection. And to lose those, it really puts you in a hardship. Now, like you know, going around detour, that's a little bit of gas problem, too, not a big one, but General Motors and Ford Motor come up in cars these days to save fuel. They're making them lighter. They also building an automatic shut-off, but now, instead of a straight shot to the doctor, to the doctor, or to the road stuff, like I said, I got a detour. And in the wintertime, I can see it coming. A big snow is gonna be a problem for us. Now, somebody else mentioned that since they closed 41st Avenue, they probably won't even fly it then, because it don't go nowhere. So now we're gonna really be stuck. We feel like we're locked in. And then they closed Kentucky Street too. So sometimes you can go out the back way. I have used it. You don't never know which way you're gonna go. You go and leave home, you take the convenient route, or sometimes a scenic route, so to speak, whatever. But to close Kentucky Street and especially 41st Avenue in Delaware, it just don't seem like the engine. I realize the mistakes are made. But my thing of it is, we should reopen that one. 41st and Delaware should be reopened. It's too vital to the people in the area. If you don't, you're gonna probably see the city go down. Nobody would move in an area on a dead one-way street. Nobody's gonna build there. It don't go nowhere, it don't do nothing. And it's too hard to get in and out.
So, to your, and I said this earlier, but I didn't reference it, that was the first one that we agreed to. And I understand your assessment, but it is the most dangerous. And, you know, I think the gentleman back there said it hadn't been that many accidents, and you've been there a long time. One with a train is too many, because you can't recover from that one. I'm just, you know, there's some folks who have, but it's just not likely. You're right that typically, as it relates to dead ends, that there is an issue that, well, plowing is last. They're not going to treat that as a dead end, because we understand that that was a dead end that was man-made. Well, all of them are man-made, quite frankly, but that's a different type of dead end.
Now, like I said.
Now, I don't wanna have a debate. I know that there are other people who have questions,
Okay,
but I'll give you my phone number, and we can talk all night long,
okay, I appreciate it.
So,
at least until December 31st.
says what?
And at least until December 31st.
So you talking about 41st, you said it was a safety hazard.
Yes, That is correct.
I can't see it, I've been there before years too, I ain't never seen.
So there were, it would generally not be things that we would necessarily see, because that's not our area of training.
How did it come to be a safe hazard? I can't.
So I thought, so in the first meeting, they presented safety data. And what I will do, and actually I should have brought it with me, I'll share that with Councilwoman Sparks Wade and incoming Councilman Williams.
I'd like to read an email response from, I spoke with a couple people at Norfolk Southern, and both of them basically told me this was a done deal. But the last email that I got was from W.R. Miller. He's the public safety director, and he's based out of Atlanta. And he responded, Ms. Sparks Wade, we have no interest in making any changes to the safety corridor project that we worked with the city on over the past few years, which closed at-grade rail crossings in Gary. These crossings all had various histories, including highway, vehicle, train incidents, and we support the decision to close them as a good safety initiative. Please let us know if you have any other thoughts or if there are any other railroad-related matters that we can help with, but we have moved on from this matter and consider it closed. Thank you. The only thing that I'm disappointed in is that we did not get an opportunity to, when the decisions were made, have input. The meeting that the mayor indicated, I don't remember the meeting, but I was never invited to any subsequent meetings. And it wasn't for me, it was when Public Works makes these decisions, because the Board of Public Works made the final decisions, correct?
Well, they ratified the decision, but it was made largely by the technical staff.
Okay.
Engineering, public works, yes.
And, you know, I'm disappointed in that as the 6th District Councilwoman, and all of the closings were in the 6th District, that I was not made aware at the time of the closures, because we could have had this conversation at that time. Even if they would have been closed, at least we would have been fulfilled in that we would have had some input.
And Councilwoman Sparks Wade is absolutely right. And for that, I take full responsibility.
Paul?
I don't know if you're all fully aware of that. There used to be another railroad that came through there, the Nickel Plate.
Sure.
And the railroads crossed on Adams Street. When the Nickel Plate closed and they pulled their tracks up, the property went up for auction, and I bought it. So they closed a piece of property I own, and nobody told me.
Go ahead.
Did you really take, when you closed the railroad tracks, was they more concerned about getting houses towed down or what, for the $300,000?
No, the primary concern was safety. That was the way that it started. But we did some research and we knew that typically when there are closures, there is an opportunity to get dollars in. And so we thought that would be an opportunity also to get demolition done, get some blight eliminated along that corridor. But the primary, we started with safety.
So you probably create more houses to tear down now.
Any other questions?
I have a question, and I'm late, excuse my tardiness, so you all may have already discussed it, but in terms of the safety, and I haven't seen any numbers, but has the safety or the definition of safety regulation has been explained already. And the reason why I ask is thinking about railroads and so forth, I think of Miller when I think of a lot of accidents. And so what is the safety in terms of the equipment or accidents, or what's the definition of safety?
It was vehicle, train accidents, so it was the accident value.
Because I think of Miller when I think, and like I say, it's not based on reports that I've seen, but when I think of the railroads in Gary or tracks, I think of Miller when it comes to accidents and not those tracks there in Glen Park. So, like, is there data that we can look at and it shows there were 50 accidents on these tracks and 10 in Miller, or?
So there wasn't so you're talking about two different railroads.
Okay.
CSX is the Miller line, and actually there's a change that is being made to that Lake Street crossing where there have been some fatalities. But there was data that was provided, and I committed to provide that to Councilwoman Sparks Wade and Councilman Williams. But it wasn't a comparison of Miller versus, because, you know, those are both problems.
Mm-hmm. And then the gentleman here, sir, you said that they purchased your property and you didn't
They didn't purchase my property.
They infringed on his property.
infringe on your property, okay.
And certainly you have an actionable cause.
Well, you know, I know you're trying to help us, and I don't know if the railroad's aware of what they did to me. You know, with my business, I'm sure everybody's explained that I can't get a truck into my business anymore. There's a construction business, we get huge equipment in. And then also, you know, I went ahead and bought that property because it runs along the side of my shop, and I thought if I wanted to expand, I can expand out from the barn. But the property does go to the middle of the street, and a train needs 50 feet to roll over. So where the tracks crossed, we both own it. And they never said, hey, we wanna close this, you know, and if it didn't hinder my getting trucks in, I'm all for safety.
Do you have your most recent survey?
I've got a tax, I've got pictures of that engineer for me,
The engineer?
your engineer. This,
Sure.
did you wanna see it?
I don't know if I know we have that, but I don't know that that is a platted survey, which is what we would have to
Well,
send
I can
to-
go to the county and get that.
Okay, well, we can get that, I just thought you might have it here.
No.
I'm gonna give my number out, because I was supposed to be out 13 minutes ago. My, this number is 219-293-5329. Again, 219-293-5329. And my email address is kfreemanwilson, and that's all one word, no hyphen, at ci.gary.in.us.
One last question, I mean,
You should email it to me. Thank you.
all right.
Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you both, and on that, Hyde Park piece, I'll call both of them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you all.
Okay, are there any more questions in regard to the railroad? Yes, sir.
Once you're gone, the mayor's gone,
Dwight Williams.
Dwight Williams
Yes.
inherits this problem.
Yes.
I've already informed Jerome Prince that he's going to inherit this problem. And I don't know about everybody else in this room, but I've got a family business there. I'm not stopping. Not gonna stop. It's either I close or win, so I'm not stopping.
Yes.
Okay.
After the meeting, excuse me, just after the meeting. After the meeting, I'd like to talk with you.
Sure.
Personally, yes.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, I just wanna say, that railroad stretches through a lot of towns. Why is it that Gary is the only one that this happened to? You know, and when it comes to being inconvenient, that's one thing. But when it comes to liability, I think it's more than sad that we don't have access to something that we pay taxes for.
Yes, sir.
All of us in here had at one time or another used that right of way. It's not like, okay, well, there's a street over there that's a dead end, or there's a street over there that's not frequently used. Like I said, it runs through a lot of cities. Holbrook. Will they close off Liverpool track? You know, and when you talk about accidents, nobody, you know, my heart goes out to the accident that I have witnessed on that street. But like I said, I've been there for 50 years, and I can count the time that I saw that train sitting still because it hit something. So, I really feel like we've been sold out. We pay taxes, we don't have a voice, and all of a sudden, we get pinned in, you know. We paid to have that street paved. So, the railroad does not own that street.
Absolutely.
How is it that they can tell us, what would happen if we blocked that track so the train couldn't come through? See, that, you know, it's just so unfair to the citizens. And you mentioned earlier, why wasn't we made aware as citizens before all of this happened? And for whatever the cost is, the need is greater than the cost.
And I would agree with you, sir. And if I'll be on the private side instead of the public side. I won't be an elected official in January. And definitely, if this is a cause that you all want to continue to fight, I can't fight this fight by myself, okay? I cannot fight this fight by myself. If this is a cause that you all want to continue, because I do not think that no is always a final answer. I believe that, as you indicated, this is our city. The railroad doesn't own this city. Now, the railroad has, by federal law, a lot more leeway than other forms of transportation, okay? And they can get away with a lot of stuff. But I've never seen a fight that I wouldn't take on as believing in it, wanting things to change, and that I had some people that were willing to fight this fight. The railroad is not an impossible opponent. Okay? Yes, sir.
Railroads paid out a lot of money. So they're not gonna turn some, if we sold them something, they're not gonna just turn it back over to us. Just for the goodness of that. No matter how hard we fight, it's gonna be a long fight. Or somebody got to get them their money back.
One of the two, and that may be the case, but what I wanna do is find out to see if you want to continue with this fight after today.
And so that's sort of that is my second question in terms of after the gentleman's last question. So the railroad tracks, okay, the train company is saying that they can't utilize those tracks any longer. So then is the option have those tracks removed or whatever, and then
No, it's not the tracks.
No, it's not the tracks,
It's
it's
the-
just the crossing.
the crossings?
The tracks have not been removed, they still go through there.
It's still right.
It's just they've removed the pavement and some of the equipment, the crossing equipment. As a matter of fact, one constituent sent me a picture this morning about the debris that they left right there
Yeah.
at 41st in Delaware. And so, I'm going to be responding. As a matter of fact, I have not yet responded to Mr. Miller from Norfolk yet, because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything, that you all wanted me to cover with him, including the debris that they left behind. Okay, so if you all have anything that you want me to respond to him, please see me after the meeting. Yes, sir.
I know Ms. Wilson said she didn't want to debate on it, but you know, you think of things while you're talking. I've been there for, like I said, for 40 years myself. Scoop said he's been there 50 years, he's been there 30 years. But that was lights and crossing gates at 41st and Delaware. That was a safety right there. We had bells, lights, and
Absolutely.
gates.
Yes.
And then the train lay on the whistle all the time. Every time they come through, they lay on
Yes,
that
they
whistle.
do.
So I don't see a big safety issue there. Even late at night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he ain't that much traffic, he laying on that whistle. 3 o'clock in the morning, he laying on it. So the gates is working, the lights is working, so I just don't see the safety.
Yes,
We
sir.
had it made there.
Yes, sir.
I'm aware that it is, they are labeling this as a safety issue, and the current councilwoman nor I have not seen those plans, those reports. So the only thing I can ask you as a community is to allow us time to view those reports so that we can get back to you and give you something, some
Okay.
stable answers to your
That'll
questions.
work.
Okay? Because
Absolutely.
you all have valid questions.
One thing, hold on one second. In my speaking with the first person from Norfolk, when he told me the railroad crossing, accidents, and I did not write it down, but the one that I remembered was 41st and Delaware. And he said that there had been 14 accidents at that crossing. And I
No.
told him, I was like,
No,
I've been here for
absolutely
40
not.
years.
Absolutely
And this thing,
never,
and I
never.
don't even remember
No.
an accident being at, because people are really careful when they get to that particular crossing. I'm gonna take her first and then,
No, I just want to make one comment.
let me take her
Okay,
first.
I'll tell them my thing.
Okay.
I've
Yes, ma'am.
just lived here for under 2 years, and I moved from Griffith. In Griffith, there's, an ordinance to not play or sound any bells on the trains.
Right.
It's very quiet, which I loved, and, I don't recall any accidents. Now, I was there for 13 years. I don't recall any accidents, so I don't understand why the bells, 'cause I know that's a sound issue. I mean, I would not like to have that sound. And the train, where I live, the train was right behind my house, maybe 50 feet, 100 feet away from the back door. No bells ever.
Now, that is something that we can
That's a request.
take to
that
the
the city
railroad company.
Would not allow, you could not sound any bells because it was too much of a disturbance. But the gates would go down and that was it. And there was never any, you know, the pavement was always nice and flat, you didn't have bumps and holes and such. But, I was there for 13 years and it was lovely.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, in my 50 years, I don't know where whoever got those numbers from about the accidents, but that's totally wrong. It has not happened. I can just about count in 50 years on one hand the wrecks that happened on that street that we're talking about now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I know we will get that information, and we'll be sharing it with you guys. It'll probably be at his next meeting, because I don't think that this issue is going to go away as they really want it to go away. And I, again, anybody who wants to continue in this fight, let's talk about it after the meeting. I had spoken with my deacon over here, and he indicated that, he wanted to fight, but what do we do? Do we do a petition? You know, do we, contact our congressman? And these are things that we can talk about, okay? So if you want to continue, I'm in the fight for the long haul, because I'm not going anywhere. I don't plan on it anyway. And I don't like being boxed in. I really don't. I stay east, I stay on 39th and Martin Luther King, and I loved taking that Kentucky Street down to 45th Avenue and, you know, get away from the traffic. Delaware, I took all of them, everything that's closed, I would take that street at some point in time. Any other discussion in regards to the railroad? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is this the gentleman, you mentioned, sir, what's your last name?
Cooper.
Mr. Cooper mentioned the tracks on Liverpool and other streets. When you all look at the report, can you let us know whether or not there are plans for this company as a whole? Is this something nationwide that they're looking at? And then with other companies, other railroad companies, is this something that's going on in the industry where railroad companies are looking at certain tracks? Where they're looking at certain tracks that have a lot of accidents? Because like I say, is this something in the city? Because if that's the case, again, like he stated, there aren't a lot of accidents, as we know, there aren't a lot of accidents at that location. So then in Miller, would there be some changes or anything like that? So again, is this something that's industry-wide? Is it just the city? You know, and what's the reasoning behind only Gary and not Maryville or Hobart if those are affected, those tracks are affected as well?
All right, and this is Norfolk. This is just Norfolk, and I know those are the tracks that we're talking about. It would not affect Miller. I don't know what their plans were or what other projects that they've done throughout the country on those particular tracks.
Right.
Okay, but that's what we'll be finding out. We'll just limit it to those particular tracks that Norfolk owns.
And the reason why I asked it is just like, what was the reasoning or what's the driving force behind it? Is it, even though it's only Norfolk, is this something that the city came and said, hey, these tracks are bad, and then they're gonna look at other tracks throughout the city, or is it Norfolk
Okay,
originated?
you missed that part at the beginning of the
Okay.
meeting,
Okay.
and we'll fill you in afterwards.
Okay.
Okay?
Does
We'll fill you in afterwards.
does everybody in the room understand that the tracks we're discussing are the tracks that are owned by Norfolk? Okay, and that there are other, just because there are other train tracks that run through the city in different areas, they may not belong to that company, they could belong to another company. So our concern as a community are simply the tracks that that particular company has in our area. All right?
No, and I understood that part. I'm just saying what's coming down the road. Is it gonna be more changes to come?
Oh.
What started? What's the origin of it? Like I say, a lot of this we just learned about. So, and again, excuse me for being tardy, but I understand that it's Norfolk Southern. So that's not the issue. Just understanding like what's the driving force and what are other changes that are coming.
Initially, the mayor filled us in regards to Norfolk approaching the city in regards to safety concerns.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what initiated.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir?
The railroad approached the city concerning safety,
Yes.
or were they concerned about dollars to get out of repairing, fixing crossings, what's called? That don't even seem like it would be their concern about safety.
Well,
And then about safety for the city, if you got your gates working and lights flashing, I hate to say, but if somebody decides to go around the crack, that's their concern. And why should they, penalize everybody? I mean, that's just the way it is.
and the fewer crossings you have, the less opportunity there is for somebody to go around the gate. So that is a part of safety. Whether somebody's, and we've all done it, whether somebody is, not smart in crossing when the gates are down,
It was like,
yes, sir.
it was like, last year, there was
What's your name, sir?
a lady being
What's
chased
your
by
name?
somebody who was gonna get robbed.
What's your name? Your name?
Jose Andahar,
Jose?
Glen Park resident. And, she was running down the railroad tracks and the train hit her and they shut the tracks off for her.
Okay, I missed that. Could you say that again?
There was an incident on Broadway and 41st,
Mm-hmm.
where the lady was running from somebody and she ran into the train.
Oh, okay.
And they shut it down. And that was, I think, a year and a half ago or so.
I'm curious,
A little different.
concern of safety, concerned that
Because it's a state house.
their
Because
equipment,
Broadway is a state house.
their trains would be sabotaged perhaps by residents, but they concerned about their safety.
I don't,
Okay, 'cause
I was not, again, in that meeting, in the one meeting that occurred between the city and, the railroad company. What I can say is, we will get that information. We will get what the mayor has, and we'll bring it back to you all, okay?
And then a lot of this is public information, isn't it? The number of accidents.
Probably so,
Yeah.
probably so.
Throughout any city that Norfolk trains run through, it's public information. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know what, she had a good point there. I was just thinking about it. Now that we're gonna continue to fight, because while I lived there, I've been there for 40 years, he's been there for 50 years, he's around it. So I'm not planning on moving. I enjoy my home and I think so. But 41st Avenue is a vital street. And if we continue to fight, it seems like the people in Hope would have a little complaint too, because it's a through fare for them, especially coming from Hope to Griffith. You don't need to go to Route 6, especially at 94. Then the people in Griffith coming back and forth. I see all kind of traffic coming down through there. It's like Mr. Cooper said earlier, for emergency vehicles, in the summer and winter time, 41st Avenue, you take that, you know, by all them side streets, you can get in there and out for an emergency vehicle, it's pretty quick. And I just see another thing, like you not being at the meeting, and we not having any input, we was misrepresented there in the first place. That should be a reason to take another second look at it, but we didn't have a representation. And I've seen the city send out flyers, I've had different people in the neighborhood that want to open up daycare centers, even a junkyard down the street. They have came by and solicited us for that. Is it okay for me to put up this daycare? Or is it okay to open up a city towing company down? But when they decide to close the railroad, they don't tell me nothing, ask me nothing about it. And like I said, I find it real strange that you being the 6th councilman was not even invited to the meeting. That's another reason to open it up back out there. We wasn't represented.
And I would take that position. Unfortunately, administration represented the district instead of everybody who needed to be at the table. Okay, so, you know, it's, especially because I'm on my way out. And in the last few months, this major decision that was made, I felt slighted, but I'm not gonna get into my feelings, because this is, you know, because it's out of my hands, it's in God's hands. And He can do the impossible. So that's who we are depending on at this point. Regardless of what man says, God can do anything.
Yes, He can.
So we're gonna stand on the word of God, and we're gonna invoke our faith. Okay, this is the time when you invoke your faith, folks. When you reached all of the grace that it's time to do something different. Yes, sir.
But, yeah, God can do the impossible, but human beings can do the possible.
Yes, they can. Yes,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yes.
And He works through us.
That's right.
Okay, He works through us, but He can change the heart of the CEO of Norfolk. Okay? Yes, sir. Mr. Blair.
Yeah, I'm missing something over. You're talking about, I'm sorry I wasn't in the beginning of the speaking, and forgive me for that, but I'm sitting here baffled. Or you're talking about closing 41st Avenue for some track reason or what?
They already did it.
Already did, permanent.
They
So
already
it's closed,
did.
you can't go down 41st.
Can't go down 41st East. So when you
Can't go down 41st to Delaware.
Can't go through
Cross
41st
Delaware,
East.
You can't cross that
Right.
because of the track.
Yes, sir.
Because of the
They
code.
they barricaded, do you say barricade?
Guardrail.
A permanent guardrail has been installed at 41st and Delaware.
But then you can go through Delaware crossing the track.
No,
sir.
no, no, not.
Neither way you can go.
Neither way.
Down
North
41st
and
you can't.
south, east or west, can't get
Oh,
through.
no, yeah, the fight is on.
Yeah.
Why, I'm hoping you got you big enough to stand in the gap with that, because that is not safe for the city nor the residents surrounding in that area. That is, and yeah, that, they don't own that piece of land, so something about to get blowed up or get burned off at night.
Look, and
radios
that
might
part.
get burned tonight or whatever. That ain't, that, oh yeah, it's on.
Okay, yes,
Can I
sir.
just make one other?
Yes,
comment?
sir, absolutely.
I'd really like somebody in here, if they could, tell me, how did that crossing get so bad in 50 years? After 50 years, how did all of a sudden it's unsafe?
Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah.
I've been at my address, I've been using it for 50 years.
No, that's.
Now, all of a sudden, it's unsafe.
That ain't.
Well, and we know we're really careful when we get to that crossing because of the angle that it takes.
Right.
But it angles on, Grant Street and Ridge Road as well.
Absolutely.
That's an angle as well.
It doesn't matter about the angle, we've been angling through there for 50 years.
Absolutely.
That doesn't
Yes, sir.
matter, that's just not right,
It
not
was
safe,
Grant
for
Street and
for the
Gary
for the whole community.
They stayed on them, and you can't pay them off. That's different.
We ain't wanna,
Okay.
they shouldn't try to do it, we ain't gonna pay them nothing, they shouldn't try to do it.
No, they
Okay,
gave
so-
Gary a check.
So what I wanna do now, are there any other questions? And I really wanna turn this portion over to incoming Councilman Dwight Williams, because at this point, it's December the what, 12th?
12.
And in January, he will begin to represent you all, and you all really, I didn't get this opportunity when I came in. You know, nobody invited me to, pass the baton on, but I want to congratulate Mr. Williams, and I look forward to working with you, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be standing on that podium at the 3-minute section at the end of the meeting like everybody else. But we definitely want this transition to be a very smooth one, and welcome to this seat, and we look forward to working with you.
All right.
Are there any other concerns, questions, comments that you all would like to make? Yes, ma'am.
My question is whether or not you'll be briefing Mr. Williams on suggestions that have been, that has been made to you for the upcoming year.
We talk every now and again. I'm sure we'll have a few more conversations before the year is out. And it's not going to be the, animosity between somebody because it was an open seat. I didn't run for the office again. That happens as well. That's probably, one of the reasons why there is no animosity. But we will continue to work together, and I'm sure, because I'm also a precinct committee person, and we're both in that organization. So we'll continue to work together, and we'll continue to talk.
Understand.
Absolutely.
But to you, Councilor, you hit that running when you was elected,
Yes, sir.
and knowing, I heard a lot about you from people, you was doing what you could do. I always felt that you did what you could do.
Yes, sir.
So, I don't blame you for anything. And you also told her that you wasn't invited to any meetings that had anything to do with this railroad.
Yes, sir.
So you was letting her know that you wasn't advised about it, so we can't hold you for anything.
Yes, sir. Oh, I appreciate that. But you know what? I still, as a public official, as an elected official, when something happens in your district, I'm gonna take the hit for it. And it's okay. It's my responsibility. At the end of the day, it's my responsibility. And after me, it's the mayor's responsibility. Yes, sir.
Chief Technology. Oh, okay. I've got a couple of things. First of all, no disrespect to Mr. Williams, but I hate to see you go. I really do. I think you did a lot for us. You were the fighter, and I'm gonna miss you in that position. Second of all, this company that's working for NIPSCO changing these poles are really disrespectful. I mean, it's ridiculous. They put those poles down, they block my gate, and I had to threaten to burn the poles before they would move it. And I was serious, I was gonna put, gas on them. I couldn't get out of my back gate to take the garbage out, because they had the long poles blocking the gate. They blocked the streets, they don't tell us that the street's gonna be blocked. I couldn't get home. It's ridiculous, and and I think they're doing work all over the city.
They are, and
But-
we can definitely report that,
What's your address, sir?
I live at 51st and Washington.
but they put the pole up already, right?
Oh, they moved it.
Okay.
They moved it,
But did
because I
they
told them
replace
if it
it?
wasn't moved by the end of the day, it was gonna be burned.
How long ago was that?
Last week. And another thing too, to the incoming, council person.
Yes, sir.
52nd Avenue is bad from Broadway to Madison. It's really bad. They're still dumping tires. Something needs to be done, because it's bad. It really looks bad.
And I did put the report in for the tires that, I think it's a company or somebody.
It is.
Because it's like a whole pile of tires in the alley between, right at that garage and in the alley at Adams, 52nd Avenue and Adams and Washington.
Adams and Washington.
Yeah, right there, a whole pile, and I did report that to the city, but I need to follow up on that.
Because we was also inquiring if they put some kind of surveillance cameras somewhere down through there. What you call the little sign saying this area is being surveillance.
Yes.
Because, like I said, sometimes I'm a night owl, so I go to Walmart's and Myers there, and I try to come through that way, so I can see if I catching somebody doing something down there. And I have to do a camera in my car, so it kind of records the license plate, whatever. But, I mean, something really needs to be done about that.
And also, Bavita and Mr. Williams, can you find out for us, how long will it be for the company that's putting in the poles to take out the old poles that are cut off from, the height lift? We don't want that there forever, because it's still in our community and distorting our community. So can you find out how long it's gonna take them to remove the old poles that are still existing there?
I can talk to, I'm quite sure you know the same person speaking with Lipscomb, to find out about that for you.
And also, Mr. Williams, I'd like to introduce you to one of your new community block clubs.
Sure.
That is now that has formulated in the 51st Avenue community. 51st Avenue Community Block Club, can you stand up, please? All right. Beautiful. As community residents, the area at 52nd from Broadway to Madison has been an eyesore for years. We appreciate the city coming out, cleaning up the times that they do, but soon they clean up. The people that dump, they put it, start dumping all over again. So as community residents, we decided to get together and be more active in our community in reference to bringing our community back up to standards the way we like it in our area. So I just wanted to introduce you, Mr. White.
Yes.
So you'll know, we watching and we here. Okay?
And we're gonna be calling you.
We gonna be calling.
Yes, we will.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
You can tell me whether this is a answer it now or answer it after the meeting. So huge supporter, you already know that. But there's a recent ordinance that I believe that you sponsored about the basketball.
Yes.
Or whatever,
Yes.
and if you could just, again, you can answer now, you can wait till afterwards, but just shed some light on what that's all about, and the reason
Okay,
why.
so, Tuesday, we had a public safety meeting, and I've sponsored an ordinance prohibiting the, temporary backboard, basketball courts, portable basketball courts in the streets.
Thank you.
Okay, and there's a lot of debate going on. We have discussed it, we've heard many sides. I'm definitely a youth advocate. I used to coach volleyball in New Orleans. I played every sport there is to imagine. But we didn't play basketball in the street. We played basketball in the driveway or on the basketball court simply because you can't control, the whole game is played in the street and you can't control where that ball is gonna go. So, we've gotten a lot of complaints in regards to the traffic that is impeded by a lot of kids coming in your neighborhood. Some of them live there, some of them don't. And they're playing basketball in front of your house and ruining your grass. And this has become a problem. And so we don't want the kids not to be able to play in the street. Playing in the street is fun as a kid. But what we do want is for kids to recognize that the street is made for cars and you gotta get out of the way. You can't hold the ball there and keep on bouncing when, you know, the Oldsmobile is coming down the road. So that is what prompted me to sponsor that particular ordinance, the complaints that I've been getting. And what we compromised on is that it will be complaint driven. If there is no complaint about the portable hoop, then code enforcement will not come out and do anything. They just won't, you know, because what they're gonna do is tag the particular court. Is gonna be a verbal warning initially. Secondly, it'll be a $50 fine, then a $200 fine, then $500 fine. Okay, and it is, we're not restricting anything in the alley. You can do whatever you wanna do in the alley. But on the street, no portable basketball courts if it passes. And that's why we discussed it on Tuesday. I think we got a consensus. We made some changes to the ordinance. And the main change that we made was that it's complaint driven. Okay? So we get enough complaints from that particular basketball hoop, it's got to come out because it's a nuisance. Taxpayers pay their money and, you know, it's two sides to this. Yes, sir.
No, just curious, how would you actually implement it, you know, if you're dealing with children? Or would it be for those that claim the property and then would it be to their parents?
It would be to the parents. It would be to the parents, the owner of that particular
so the parent will get the verbal warning?
The parent would get the verbal warning. The parent would be fined. We will be dealing with the parents, yes.
So, and I know that you are, transitioning out, you're transitioning in. Is there any discussion around what the city's willing to do to create more opportunities for kids to play in their own neighborhoods?
Well,
So, because I'm thinking if you remove, again, it may not be a lot of complaints or whatever the case may be, but if that goes away, then what is the alternative?
no, we talked about that, as well. That was part of the discussion in regards to the parks and, the fact that our parks are not maintained as well as they should be. And discussion was, we had discussion in regards to the fiberglass backboards that have been broken all over the city. And this is the problem, is that it's so expensive to replace those. They replace them and then in a week or two, somebody will have come back and broken it. And the problem is that it seems that the equipment that they've used supports the fiberglass versus the steel backboards that, you know, will be there forever. So the Parks Department is in discussion with the council and prayerfully and hopefully they'll be able to replace more backboards on next year. Yes, sir.
I gotta excuse myself.
Okay, please do. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, I'm talking to all you folks.
Yes, sir.
Since we're talking on other subjects, my question is, what is the city's plans for Howard Park?
I went downtown this weekend, cleaned my wallet.
Howe Park.
And I just
Howe
looked for
Park
one I
is
don't.
being renovated. Howe Park is at 39th in Vermont. We have been working on that one for quite
I'm there
some
at
time.
7 to 5.
The tennis court is being removed, we're putting a basketball court in there. The swimming pool is being removed, and we're putting a splash pad there instead of the swimming pool, because the, consensus is it's low maintenance. All you gotta do is turn the water on, okay? We're also putting in a playground, and we're renovating the pavilion, okay? So things are moving over there right now. Anybody who lives over there or has passed by there, you've seen they basically uprooted the pool and the tennis court at this point. And they will begin construction again in the spring. Yes, sir.
My question is concerns the cleaning up. I live on the 4400 Rutherford, Connecticut for 30 years. The east side and the west side is terrible. I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to catch me a dumper, somebody that's dumping. I even bought some fake signs to put under surveillance. Hopefully that can slow it down. It seems like people that buy these abandoned houses, they're throwing all this furniture around, because a lot of this furniture is like got mold and stuff on there, so I don't know. Maybe we can get on the list, our block. I'm trying to get more people involved, because we're not going nowhere, we're gonna stay put. So, you know, I bought me a John Deere, and I'm taking care of 6 lawns, because I got 7 empty houses on my block.
Okay.
And I have new tenants right here in front of me right here.
So so is there debris out there now?
Yes, there is.
Okay, so
I have a mobile home that's left in an abandoned house, and it's full of junk.
Okay, 44th in Connecticut?
4443 Connecticut.
44, 43.
Right,
Okay.
my house has the flagpole there. You know,
Okay. And there's debris in
on both
regards
sides,
to-
on the east
on
side
both
and west
sides.
side, in the alley. They came through there at the beginning of the summer, they did a beautiful job,
Mhm.
but they came right back.
Is that on both sides? Is there abandoned houses or something next to you?
Yes, we have 5 on the west side, and we have
Okay.
4 on the east side.
Okay, we'll go ahead and report this to General Services. Okay? Yes, sir?
Why don't the city consider using some of these, excuse me, vacant lots to move those basketball goals to the vacant lots? I mean, that would take them off the street if they would consider. And there's a lot of vacant lots in the city.
And I know how much it would cost to do.
Yeah, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so that's what we wanna do. We wanna be able to have answers, solutions to, very difficult problems. You know, when you think about our children and the places that they don't have to play like when we grew up. You don't have the recreation in the summer the way we had it when we were growing up. And yes, having a basketball court out on the street is a fun thing for kids right now. Unfortunately, it poses another problem for our elderly. You know, I had a elderly grandmother call me, and she said, you know, she doesn't want to approach the kids because the kids, you know, their language is, you know, they might cuss her out. They're not as respectful as they used to be. So we don't want them to have to approach children that are a nuisance in the area, okay? If it's a nuisance and it begins to be so, then let us know. And that report can be made to code enforcement or to the police department if this law passes. There is a law on the books right now that actually says no game playing in the street. It actually says that. It's not enforced as much as it used to be. Yes, ma'am, and then yes, sir.
And I think another reason that I'm considering would you pass it, or hopefully it gets passed, is because the kids are playing in the streets, and I've noticed that we're seeing more people speeding, and it's just not safe. And I'm specifically thinking about 43rd in Kentucky, a few houses from that intersection, kids play in the street and people speed down Kentucky.
That one is
And I'm just seeing more
Yeah.
accidents, and it's just unsafe. So, yeah, and I play basketball, so I support it. But another thing I'll say is that when I saw this information shared on Facebook, the post that I saw stated that you just wanted all of the courts taken down in the city, which I thought was an exaggeration. But now that it's courts that are portable, that makes more sense, especially since some individuals who put up these courts, they put them away from their houses
Right.
and in front of the houses of other property owners. And then, like you say, you have all of these kids there. But again, one of the questions that I want to ask is, are there any plans to address some of the issues with speeding? Because it's getting to the point where people have no regard for stop signs, and it's just unsafe. Even like one of the police officers told me, when you come to a stop sign, stay there a little bit longer, because somebody coming on the opposing street, they'll just keep going, and it's just unsafe. So do you know if there are any plans to address that? And again, we have this influx of Chicagoans, and it's no taint on Chicagoans, but they do, and I have family in Chicago, but they do drive faster. So anything to address, some of those concerns, because I definitely have seen more accidents, and even on Broadway, you see poles down all the time now. Like I say, it's just becoming an issue.
Absolutely.
Well, she's gonna allow me to address this. During my campaigning, I did stop by the 2 schools we have here and several other schools that are not in condition, we'll say. We do need to put in place some speed bumps around our schools. I know a lot of residents don't want those speed bumps in the area, because their own personal concerns, but let's be honest, we're looking at the safety of children. We all know that these adults and teenagers are driving down the street very erratically, and we need to put those speed bumps in place. So I think that once we get that in place, if you want to continue driving late at night like that, you tear up your vehicle, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to rip up your muffler or whatever else, because you're going to make it to a point where you have to slow down, or your car may go terrible. Right?
And we do have a new police chief coming in. Most of you probably know Colonel Richard Ligon has been appointed as our new police chief. And this is something that we can take up with him, that our officers enforce speeding, enforce traffic laws in our city.
But some of the officers are one great.
So there is revenue to be gained
Yes.
with this situation.
Absolutely.
So we will keep a firm eye on this and firm hand.
I was writing down 39th and Monroe Street. That road is deplorable. It's very bad, very hazardous road. And then the other thing is getting back to basketball hoops. I haven't checked recently, but does Lew Wallace School have those metal basketball rims up there still? On the west side of the property?
They've got, I think I'm not sure if the backboards are going or not. Matter of fact, I usually walk the track around there sometimes, and I can't remember right now.
It's west of that.
We, my flag football team practices at Lew Wallace all the time, so it's not really conducive to these kids trying to get out there and play. Is it something that can be done about it? I'm sure.
Yeah, it's
The
already
school
in
board
existence,
on board, but
Cause right now, the guys that are doing the telephone poles got
They
the
got all the
poles
poles
on their side, yeah.
And then also one other mention, the alleyways, the T alleyway between 47th and 48th Avenue, between Monroe Street and Jackson Street, that alley needs to be planed off. It's got a lot of potholes in that alley, it's pretty bad.
Okay, 47
Yeah.
and 48, Monroe and Jackson?
And then between Monroe and Jackson.
Okay. All right,
One more. 51st Avenue from Broadway to Madison.
yeah.
The street, are they planning on, are we on the list?
I don't think it's on the list, and I mean, to be done, I've requested it, that it be, matter of fact, that was the first street that no, I'm not gonna say that was the first street, that was the third street, cause I asked for 39th and 41st when I first got in office.
Was
but
the east side
51st
worse
was
than
next.
the west side?
So we're gonna make sure that we put that, make sure that you know that 51st from Broadway to Madison, right next to, the bank there, needs to be done.
As well as 52nd, correct?
Mhm.
Well, maybe Madison, 51st and 52nd.
Yes. Hold on one second. Mr. Blair?
Yeah, I asked, did they just finish the, east side of 51st, did they do the east side?
No,
Was
they-
the east
yeah,
side
they-
worse than
yeah, they did
50th?
east.
They did east.
Yes, that's crazy, why would they do a
realize
street
that.
that didn't need to be done?
They
Oh,
did
wow.
they passed the worst street and did the other street.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. I hadn't been down there in a minute. Okay. All right, yes, sir.
And then that one, at least the west side leads to a school.
Right, right. 51st West was definitely worse than East.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I couldn't understand why they would do the east rather than the west.
47th to what?
47th and Broadway to, Madison, near the dialysis center. That street, it's all crunchy, going all the way across.
47th Avenue.
Is it 48th Avenue by the dialysis center?
That's,
On Broadway?
that's 48.
48.
48.
48 to Madison.
Mhm.
It's all bad.
Okay. Okay, and, you know, we're seeing streets paved that haven't been paved in 40 years. We are so excited about 40th Avenue. And we would hope that the paving continue, in the spring. Hopefully it will.
Hopefully Gary doesn't sell, more railroads to get that money.
Hopefully not. I wanna go ahead and close out, all hearts and minds clear? I wanna thank Mr. and Mrs. Blair again for allowing us to have our meeting here at the Blind Social Center. They are one of our great partners in the community. Reverend Wynn, we appreciate your being here and your volunteerism. I want to thank everybody. Thank you all for your support during my tenure as your 6th District Councilwoman. It has been an honor and a privilege serving each and every one of you. I think this is the highest form of service. Listening to you all, making sure that your complaints get to the right place. We may not always be able to do, you know, what you want us to do, but we try. But we try.
If you're able to ask for it, we're able to receive it.
Okay, I'm not gonna end my service. I will continue to be the public servant that I've been all my life. So my phone number is the same. If you need anything, please ask me. We have refreshments over here. Please feel free to have some of those Christmas cookies, and don't let me take it home because I've gained about 10 pounds over the last. Yes, I have. All right.
Next meeting?
Next.
Yes. Council-elect Williams.
I have not selected the next meeting. It will be in January, so I will have the secretary, if you can leave your information for me, your email information for me, going out the door, I'll have an email every one of you of the next meeting, okay? And I will post it up in different areas, storefronts, museums, and so forth.
Will you place it on the mayor's site?
Sorry?
On the mayor's site?
I will.
Okay.
Do you have, social media at all?
I have a Facebook page, yes I do. I'll place it on my page. If you want to go to my page, it's Dwight A. Twin Williams, all right? And that's my Facebook link. So you can catch me, you can send me a message anytime you want, I'm getting them now. I'd like to ask anyone, are there any more concerns as far as with the drop sites? And the drop sites are the areas where the poles are for NIPSCO. Because for a while, I kept getting hits on Facebook and phone calls.
Yeah, they're in my alley, but they left the old ones up, they cut them or put a yellow or a red X or something on them and just left them there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's on, 45th.
Down the street from Oak Street? That's where you're
Well,
at your house
no,
or
at
your
my house.
business, at your house?
On 45th between Harrison and Van Buren,
Mhm.
that alleyway there.
Okay, I'll stop there.
Okay.
And then also on the corner of 51st and Madison, they left a big pile of gravel, rocks for kids to pick up and throw people's windows.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and one other thing that they're doing is trimming, I guess, the tree tops so that
Yes.
they can reach them. Well, they've cut and they've left, they just come and dump it in the back alley somewhere and behind an abandoned house. So they're just dumping, they're not hauling them. I think is the issue.
41st, they left the guardrails there, about 4 or 5 of them. Scrap man came, took them to Paul's. Paul's didn't want to take them because he knew they belonged to the railroad.
Okay, everybody, Merry Christmas and
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
likewise.